or something and read it, but
Mm-hmm.
no, he's reading it on this giant, original model IBM computer.
uh, all right, so move on. We're gonna skip the next scene because the next scene is Beverly talking to Wesley. We already covered that. So then we see uh, Worf in his quarters, uh, and he's like staring at himself in the mirror, and it's so funny. And the only thing I can assume is it's because his dad was like, "Did you gain weight?" When they first saw him, and his mom was like, "Did your hair grow out?" Kind of thing. And so he's sort of looking at himself, like trying to figure out if he looks okay, and sitting on this most bizarre, like Star Trekian chair stool thing.
Yeah.
I love it. It looks like a piece of art, but he was sitting on it, so it has to be a chair. But his parents come in, they sort of barge in on him, and they're like, "Oh, we can go if we're bothering you," And he thought they were going to go to bed, but his mom said we wanted to come tuck you in.
That was so cute. It really was.
So, they have a little heart-to-heart, and it's really great because it shows his parents being very human and saying, you don't have to carry this burden of your discommendation alone. We're here to help you with whatever you need, and we love you, and we're proud of you, and don't think that you have to bear all of this. I'm just glad to see that people are still like that, 24th century or whatever, because sometimes you don't see that sort of empathy and caring, even in families sometimes anymore. But
yeah, you really do see, like, Worf is absolutely trying to, like, bear this all alone as a warrior, and, I can't share my shame with you, it's mine alone to bear, and I love that his father says to him, like, you don't have to explain, like, why you did what you did. At the end of the day, I know what kind of man you are. So,
yeah.
I really, this scene to me was a really beautiful scene of, like, a father and a son, and a dad being, like, supportive and loving and caring toward his grown adult son. And, I mean, like, you talk about how do you combat toxic masculinity. Like, this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
I love you, I support you, I know what kind of a man you are, so if you made this decision, I know it has to be a good one because you're a good person. Like, what a beautiful scene of two men showing support for each other. I loved it personally. I thought it was great.
Right, and what's so great is, they say, we know what kind of man you are, we know you did this for a good reason, and they don't know that he did. Like, if you only watch the ones that we're watching and talking about, like, he basically took the blame for something. Let his whole family line take the blame for something so that it wouldn't, like, take down their whole empire, because they found out the truth and it was another family's fault and all this kind of thing. And so it really was honorable, and it's just now he's not really welcome, I guess, with the Klingons. But so they were right, because they do know him, and they do know that he would have done what he thought was right and honorable, and they don't even need to know what it is because they trust him and they're there for him. And it really was very touching, especially for a sci-fi show. That's why this is a great show.
No, this is a great scene. His parents are just very supportive, and yeah, it's fantastic. It's really good. I mean, I love, I think, like, family needs to be there for you, and they definitely were, and, like, it goes along. That's why this story's so great, and that's why the Picard stuff's so great. Why? What the with that Crusher?
It detracts so much from this two great stories. The C plot is so dumb. It really is.
Oh.
Ugh.
Right. So the next scene, we open in Chateau Picard with Picard drinking alone. Robert comes in. They go back and forth about things, and Robert's, "Oh, so what happened to you?" Not like a caring brother. What did they do? What happened? Do you want to talk about it? He just, like, hostilely is like, So what'd they do? Well, I'm just curious. And of course, Picard doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to deal with it. He's trying to like push the whole assimilation thing out of his mind. He doesn't have any more nightmares. His body is healed. He just wants to push it on out and get out of the way. Robert keeps pushing and pushing, and Picard gets up and walks off. Well, of course, Robert's not going to let this happen. He's going to, stick to him like white on rice and just keep aggravating him. That leads to this great fight that they have in the mud. But, but it has a whole, like I wrote kind of a little bit in this for this scene, but there is a whole lot in this scene because there's emotions, and they talk about how Robert is so jealous. Picard just doesn't even understand why, because he's just like, I never sought any of those things. Like, he just wanted to be like the best he could be, not that he was trying to get all the awards and everything. But of course Robert doesn't see it that way because he was never Robert. He was always Jean-Luc's brother. That can be really hard on siblings, especially if you're the older sibling and you're not getting any credit and only your younger sibling is. Just so people know, I wrote, they indulge in fisticuffs in the notes. Because I just found that to be amusing.
But it's true. There were definite fisticuffs in this scene.
Yeah. And, and we talked about it, that Robert told him that told Picard he needed it, and Picard was like, yeah, well, you deserved it. And they end up laughing and crying, and but they help each other up in the end. It wasn't like one got up and helped the other. That was the thing that I thought was nice, is that they both reached out their hands and they used each other to help each other up. Into the next scene, which is, do we want to talk about this some more, about the mud scene? We did talk about it earlier.
I think we've
exhausted.
We kind of talked about it a lot earlier.
I think we rolled around in that mud enough.
We've exhausted this scene. So the next scene, we see them, we're not sure how much later it is, but it is obviously later because Robert and Picard are drunk as skunks, singing French songs real loud. They tracked in mud everywhere.
They're still covered in it.
Yes, and they're still covered in mud. Marie comes in. I don't know where the hell she's been, but she comes in and she's like, what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, it is a great little sort of scene of like the two brothers getting drunk, and they've messed up the house, right? And then they're like, well, I fell down, and then he fell down, and then I fell down again, and then we both fell down, and it's, of course, she's like, oh, you've been fighting. And because
it was a cockamamie story.
Of course. And she very wisely is like, well, you got it out of your system. So she knew that they needed to do this. On some level, they had to just kind of fight it out.
Yeah.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be held accountable for their actions.
Yes. But I like that, she kind of scolds them for fighting, and then she asks what their dad would have done, and Picard is like, he would have sent us to our rooms without any dinner.
Yeah.
like, all right. Then the next scene is Wesley in the holodeck. We don't care about that. So we're going to continue on at Chateau Picard. We see the family walking out with Picard. They've all got cleaned up now. And Picard is in his Starfleet uniform. He's got his little container suitcase. He's on his way out because he's made his decision that he is not gonna deal with the whole thing with, Louis and his crew can find somebody else to be the director. His place is on the Enterprise with Starfleet. That's where he's going. So they have the regular goodbyes. Be careful. Oh, let us know how you are when you get there. Blah, blah, blah. All that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then, Renee is still talking about how he wants to go out and do all that and see the stars. And then you kind of see, like, Sourpuss in the back. And it's like, what is Robert going to say? Like, I thought they covered this. And then he's like, here's a small bottle of some of the 47. And he gives him a bottle of wine.
I love that he tells him, don't drink it all at once and try not to drink it alone.
Yep.
Like, I thought that was very...
The don't drink it alone line was great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, he wanted, again, speaking to the fact that Robert has a family to go home to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he comes home at the end of the day, he sits down with his wife and his kid, and they have dinner, and they break bread, and they drink wine. But Picard, when he's back...
You think that kid's drinking wine?
Oh, of course he is. He's drinking a little bit of wine. I think he's drinking a little bit of wine.
Yeah, they do that in France, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those kids are drinking wine when they're like 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Renee's drinking some wine. Yeah,
and Marie doesn't shave her armpits. You know, it's all the stereotypes.
I want to see Renee get like f***ed up on wine. And he's holding the bottle. He's like, "I'm gonna be a captain.
He's got the
captain, and you're still gonna be here making your wine."
He's got the empty bottle, and he's like, "It's gonna go," and that's flying it around.
He's waving the bottle in the air, and he's peeing on the floor. You know.
The dark side of the Picard family.
Anyway, so Picard goes back to the Enterprise. As he's, I guess being beamed up, we see Worf and his parents coming down the hall. Mom, Helena's like, "Is there anything you would like from home?" Worf, super Klingon, was like, no. And then he thinks about it, and this is the best part because he's like, if you could bring me some of that blood pie, like he kind of whispers it, and he looks around first. It's adorable. He doesn't want to like lose any street cred for who he is, even though people think he's great anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the doors open and Picard comes out and they go in and Sergei, of course, again is saying, "I've got all the plans and schematics."
I think this is so sweet. What a cute little way to end the episode of Captain Picard meeting Worf's parents, and they've each had their big cathartic family story on their own. We've watched it all. They don't know about each other's, though, of course. And then I like how when the doors to the transporter room close, Picard just turns around and he kind of just smiles of like, family. Like, it's the theme, without having to say it. Like, it's the whole theme of the episode of people and their families and
and their holograms.
And their holographic dead fathers.
So the last scene, we sort of mentioned it before. It's at Chateau Picard. We have Robert and Marie are eating alone, and it's kind of like, oh, where's Renee? And then we find out he's outside stargazing, like Luke Skywalker. He's looking up to the stars, just dreaming. And you think that Robert's going to be like, he needs to get in here. But when Marie's saying it's kind of late, Robert says, let's just let him dream longer. And it's like, that's so sweet. Mm-hmm. And it shows some growth.
Yeah. And it's true. It's a 45-minute episode. You're not going to see... Sometimes character growth is going to be a little bit of a jump, here. But I think it's pretty... I think it's pretty good, and I also do think it's certainly you can believe it. That at this point, Robert is big enough to say, look, let him dream. Because... at the end of the day, like, we don't know what Renee would have ended up doing. Like, he may have decided to stay home or do something else or not go into Starfleet.
Doesn't he dies?
Yeah, spoilers. In the movies, Renee and Robert die in a fire. So, sorry, everybody. I know. It's what a terrible
I don't know what's better, like how you just sort of like played that off that you didn't care, or Brian being so tickled by it.
I mean, it's not that I don't care. It's just like the way it ends, like it does set it up for like Renee being like the stargazing, dreaming kid, and then you fast forward to one of the movies, and it's like. Picard gets word from home that Renee and Robert died in a fire, and it's like, oh.
Right.
Kid'll never do anything now.
But it wasn't even that we could hear your eye roll. We could physically feel it.
I know.